This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the BioMaryland booth at Bio International, San Diego, California. I have with me Dominick Murray, the Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development for the state of Maryland. Dominick, welcome to SNNLive.
Shelley, thank you very much indeed.
It's good to have you. Now, tell our audience all about Maryland.
The one thing I'd like people to know about Maryland with regard to the Bio Center especially is that Maryland has set up an incredible infrastructure for investment in biotechnology. 5 years ago, in 2009, there were approximately 400 companies in Maryland doing bioscience. They had about 28,000 employees collectively. 5 years later, because of the number of things that we've put together in Maryland to support that infrastructure, we now have over 500 companies doing bioscience in Maryland with approximately 34,000 employees. The wages 5 years ago averaged around $60,000 to $70,000. Now we're up in the mid-90s. So the infrastructure that we've put in place, the ability to attract investors in Maryland bioscience technologies has been incredible for the growth of economics and opportunities in Maryland.
Now, I have to tell you, you have a distinct advantage. You're pretty close to Washington, D.C., aren't you?
We are, and that's a good thing. One of the things that people would say is, well, why do you concentrate so much on opportunities in the federal government? One of my answers is that typically in New Orleans, people would concentrate on the things that the Delta brings. In Iowa, they concentrate on the agricultural opportunities. We are concentrating on what we have. That's what we want to do, provide the opportunities, as the bio community says, to feed, fuel, and heal the world. What better place to start that when you are close to the FDA, when you are close to NIH, when you are close to the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. We take advantage of the opportunities that we have, and we try to do our best to expand those opportunities for anybody who wants to come into Maryland, anybody who's already in Maryland, and for investors who want to invest in the companies in Maryland.
Now, I don't want to sound like I know a little bit more about Maryland than other people, but what about University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins? I mean, you can't take that out of the mix at all.
That's exactly right. And let me tell you, one of the things that you probably know and that you would like me to share with people is that Marylanders, whether it's Johns Hopkins or the University of Maryland, the Maryland researchers have for years been number one or number two in the receipt of grants for research. What we're trying to do now is raise that level of commercialization activity from the research from where it has been lower to now where it has been greater for things like the Maryland Innovation Initiative that the governor started in 2007 or 8, challenging our researchers to commercialize the products of their research. And that's one of the things we're focusing on. And if I may expand on that just a little bit, Shelley, the Maryland Innovation Initiative is the challenge to get things out from the research bench into the bedside table or the implementation. But the other thing is we've done things like promote investment. We started an Invest Maryland Challenge. We have the biotech tax credit for investors in Maryland companies to be able to invest their money and get a 50% return right away on a tax credit for their investment in Maryland companies.
We go back with Maryland a while. SNN does.
Yes.
And what we've always noticed about Maryland, when we go around the world and talk about what we do for a living, people go, hey, about that state of Maryland, they have a pretty good model, don't they?
I would agree with them.
Well, I can tell you that I think you're the creator of a lot of jealousy, even among other states.
Jealousy or envy or let's say competition, co-opetition. One of the things that we want to do is set the high standard for which we've developed this reputation. When we implement a program like Invest Maryland, where we go into insurance companies and say, you know what your premium is going to be. You know what your tax burden is going to be. If you prepay that tax, we will give you a discount. Then we offer that discount to all the insurance companies. They prepay their taxes. We take that that money collected and put it into an equity fund that we can then invest in companies. So those are unheard of kinds of things.
Brilliant.
We needed to do that because budgets were being cut like a lot of other corporations, municipalities, counties, state governments. When we hit the hard times in the economics of running a budget, we had to come up with creative ideas on how to get money to fund the things that we're funding. So rather than just ride it out, we came up with a creative idea to help spur investment, and that's what we do.
So I want to ask you one last question, if I may. What's the future look for you and Maryland?
I think the future looks good, especially for the innovation economy that we have set up. You know, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has named us #1 in the country for 3 years in a row. #1 in the country for innovation and entrepreneurship. We harbor that. We encourage the innovation entrepreneurship model. You might have seen us at the Leadership Maryland breakfast this morning, where 3 companies in Maryland took an IPO out this year. 2 of them presented. You might have seen Rachel King introduce Secretary Hillary Clinton this morning at the breakfast. 2 firms were here of the 3 that got to IPO stage because of the infrastructure that we have, the spirit of entrepreneurship that we have, the innovation spirit that we have in Maryland. Come on over.
So with that said, if they want to come over, what website do you want to send them to?
I want you to go to choosemaryland.org. Choosemaryland, all spelled out, .org.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dominick Murray, Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development for the state of Maryland, and you're the secretary, am I correct?
That's correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive. We're at the BioMaryland booth at Bio International 2014 right here in San Diego, California. Thanks again for coming on
My
to
pleasure,
SNNLive.
Shelley.
Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.